Oh dear, we're already out of frame. Yes, apologies. I have a brand new desk. So, yeah, also another apology if my voice sounds a bit down. It's because I'm still recovering from a little bit of illness after I came back from the United Kingdom. But yeah, I went to TFNation. So, it's time to actually review the Transformers toys that I bought. So yeah, our first candidate is Authentics Grimlock. Now apparently this is actually the larger Alpha class figure because he also has a slightly smaller Bravo class figure in the same toy line. Now the story is that I actually wanted to buy the Leader class Grimlock from Studio Series 86. Because Greg Berger was actually a guest at this year's TFNation, and he was also a guest in 2019, and you know, we became friends online. But unfortunately, I was too late to actually buy one. In Demand Toys had a huge stack of Studio Series 86 Grimlock figures. All of them were sold out on the Saturday morning because I couldn't buy one because I didn't have the early access. But yeah, not helped by the fact that I also attended the David K panel. But on the Sunday, I managed to scoop up Authentics Grimlock here for £3. Shock of horrors. For what he is, he's actually quite good. Yeah, he's actually quite good. T-Rex mode is definitely a bit simple. And of course I can't get it into frame, so apologies, I have to hold it. Yeah, I got a new desk. In fact, my entire room has been changed up. This bed is where my desk used to be. Because, you know, I had a high bed, you know, a bunk bed. That's gone. So yeah. But yeah, articulation in Dyna mode. His arms can rotate up and down. And you know, the legs they have limited ball joints at the hips and ball jointed knees, so they also rotate out to the side as if they had thigh swivels. No, they bend and they also rotate out to the side, I should say. Size comparison with Bumblebee, obviously, car, robot, dinosaur. Transformation is actually pretty simple, but it's a little bit more complicated than you might think, mainly because of the certain order you have to take. But you know, we're going to start by just taking the back section here and unfurling it like so to become the robot mode legs. That's quite simple. And split it here, you have this latch here, and then a small peg at the kneecaps formed from the tail. Let me raise the camera. Hold on. Oh. Yeah, the head that just untabs here and folds down. It's actually this section, you know, splitting the belly open and then tucking this entire unit onto the back of the robo mode. That's a little tricky because sadly it does require a little bit of plastic flexing because of limited clearance. Yeah, here you crack it open. Let's see. Okay, this ought to work fairly well. But there's a certain trick to it. You gotta bend it backwards. Oh, you gotta bend it backwards a little bit, as it does actually tab into a few spots. There you go. Just position the arms as such that you have minimal plastic flexing. There you go. Now you can tuck the unit onto the back, and there are actually little tabs which do plug into small holes. That's actually quite nice. Here are the tabs, here are the holes, right there. Oop. Yep. Then of course rotate the forelegs around to form the arms. And there you have Grimlock in his robot mode. And honestly, this is, despite being a very cheap or budget-conscious figure, to put it a little bit more politely. This is pretty good. Like, this is pretty good, all things considered. There are far worse Transformers toys out there. In fact, here's a size comparison with Bumblebee. Yeah, he's definitely about the size of a Voyager class figure, and in fact, he's rough. He's a little smaller than Optimus. This is, of course, Armada Optimus from the Legacy United toy line. And yeah, Grimlock is a little bit smaller. Now, obviously, it's not entirely to scale because, you know, some people would argue that Grimlock is supposed to be quite a bit bigger than Optimus. But, you know, this is good. He's still a decent size. And yeah, I'm actually quite surprised. And even though the paint detailing is basic, it's well done. Nice gold for the chest, red Autobots. Excuse me. Red Autobot symbol, some red and silver on the pelvis, where it even looks like he has some bolts on there or nuts. Oh god. Also some silver on these vents on the chest. The helmet, I think it's actually completely painted black. I'm willing to bet that all the plastic on this guy is actually the gray that you see there. And then, of course, the blue here on the legs. Yeah, the head, just a solid black helmet and faceplate with a G1 toy accurate visor. Yeah. Surprisingly, he's pretty good for what he is. And articulation in Robomod isn't half bad either. He does have ball joints in the shoulders, which were of course the Dynamode hips, but the one major criticism is that they can move outwards very far. You probably have to go in there and kit bash them by making an open cut here. Like, that's the only major criticism I have with them in terms of articulation. But beyond that, he's actually pretty good along the lines of an old G2 figure. And keep in mind, those figures still have very good articulation. You know, like the laser rods or laser cycles or laser Optimus Prime. So, you know, the head can rotate. It's on a ball joint. Shoulders, ball jointed, though, again, they are better at rotating forwards and backwards as opposed to moving outwards. He may have stubby forearms, but again, ball jointed elbows so they can bend and rotate off to the side as if he has a bicep swivel. No waist joint, which is somewhat understandable. And then a ball joint in the hip to allow the legs to move forwards, backwards, and limited outwards motion, and a deep hinge joint for the knee. So yeah, if those arms can just have a bit more spread, this is actually pretty good. Like, you know, I think both the hips and shoulders needed just a bit more outward spread. And then I wouldn't have any major complaints with the articulation. As is, you know, pretty simple, but, you know, it's quite nice. And what's also quite nice is that his hands are 5mm compatible. So here's a translucent purple gun from Legacy United Starscream. You know, Cybertron Starscream. He can hold it just fine. Yeah, he can hold it just fine. It's nice. It's pretty nice. I mean, granted, it's not like a wow, he's so fantastic kind of figure, but he's pretty good for what he is. So, like what, 7 out of 10? Because honestly, I think he's too nice to get a 6. So, yeah, I think that's fair. And I think, judging by the gun, next up we are going to go with Legacy United Starscream. See you then.